So hello, welcome to the depths of the British countryside, and today, as the title of this video would suggest, we're taking you on the first drive of the brand new Land Rover Defender. Now this review is actually in two parts. One half of it is going to sit on the Sunday Times website. We are taking this next level off-roading in that video. So if you're interested in the capabilities of this car off-road, hit the link below. And in my side of the video, we're going to be complementing that with what it's like to drive on-road. So take your pick, but right now I'm going to give you a quick walk and talk of the aesthetics and features of the car, and then we're going to go on-road and off-road if you want. So here it is. I think you'll agree, and I know aesthetics are subjective, but to my eyes, these guys have nailed it. I think it looks fantastic. Now, as far as challenges go, think about what a big deal it is to redesign such an iconic car. Must have been incredibly daunting when they put the first pen to paper, but certainly when I'm here standing in front of it, in reality, it looks remarkable. And my key design features, don't forget that while this car will spend most of its time on the road, the off-road abilities are outstanding. Now, one design feature and element which has led to this thing being so great off-road is in fact such short overhangs. So just check out the distance between the edge of the front tire and the end of the bonnet, super short. And if we come around to the back, same thing applies. It almost looks like the back of the car has been sawn off. It's got that iconic flat back that made up the foundation of the original Defender. And then these tires. So these are actually an intermediary tire. These are an optional extra on the car, and the idea with these tires is that it bridges the gap between both on-road driving and off-road driving. Once again, link below if you want to find out how effective these things are off-road. Actually physics divine stuff. Now I'm sure, like me, you guys have been looking at photos online of the new Defender, and you might have seen this panel here. Now the car initially will be available in two styles or two guises. So the format is the 110, which is this, which is the 5-door. 5-door because you have two conventionally either side, and then the rear door here. While we're here, I might as well speak to you about the interior room. I mean, it's practical through and through. As soon as you stare in here, I mean, look, we've got all of our camera gear here, nicely lined with rubber, plastic. It feels rugged. It feels like I'm ready to throw a sheep in the back of here and transport him for a good shearing. And then the other thing which I like, from a cameraman's point of view or an editor's point of view, check this out. 3-pin plug right there. So if you do find yourself running low on energy, or you might want to edit a video in the middle of the Serengeti, this is the car for you. So yes, after digressing to the boot, back to the panel. On the 110, which this is actually part of the structure of the car. Just behind there is literally chassis, which this plate forms a part of. It also doubles as a mounting point for the various accessories that Land Rover offer for this car. I think there's over 140 optional accessories that you can fit on the car. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in the drive. But on the 90, which is the shorter car with only 2 doors, that is an optional extra if you do like the look of it. Seems to have split opinions so far. I actually quite like it. Also, from a cameraman's point of view, it's great for mounting GoPros onto. These little side windows here. Now, it could be easily taken for granted that that's just a nice design feature which has been carried over from the original car. However, since, let me think, the original car launched in 1948. So back then there was not really too many rules and regulations around safety and crash structure and things like that. So it was easy to just go, hey Frank, let's stick a hole in the roof there. But in today's era of designing modern cars, safety is a huge thing. And in order to engineer that window in there took these guys a lot of effort because this actually forms the structural and safety part of the car. So on the inside there, you can actually see the structural shape of the chassis, which forms part of the window. So that's a nice feature which they really had to carry over because it was part of the original design of the car, but yeah, it took them lots of engineering on this car. And then round to the front. So interesting features which might not jump out until they're pointed out. Subtle things like round shapes in square holes. This is continuing on the theme of that angular, rugged design language. It's subtle, but once it's pointed out, I think is a pretty cool feature. And then something else as well, when you look at the side profile of the car, and it looks like a pretty flat-sided car. However, if you look at it down the flanks, Look how rolled these arches are. The stance of that arch, it looks fantastic. Now this is obviously a spec'd in a sort of pure flat white, but in the more metallic paints, when you look at it from sort of 3/4 on, it really shows how flared and how sculpted the car actually is. I mean, check out this bonnet dome here. It just looks so cool. And all of this stuff is carried through as a nice tip of the hat to the original car. And then inside, hop in with me. So I think the thing that hits you first is the sense of practicality. You get in and there's this juxtaposition of quality fabrics, but also you can tell that it's designed to take a beating. While we have nice luxury leather on the dash, there's still all these cubby holes and it's trimmed with leather and plastics, and it just feels very hard wearing as soon as you get in it. I mean, even simple things like down here, floor mats, chunky rubber mats, just feels good. You have things like USB-C slots down here. We have a big chunky touchscreen display with upgraded connectivity, Apple CarPlay, etc. I like it. Anyway, that's a quick overview of the features of the car. This channel for me is all about driving. So let's take it on the road. I shall explain to you what it's like on the road, and alternatively, if you want to know what it's like in really adverse environments, hit the link below to the Sunday Times to find out what this thing is really like in its element. So here we are, finally, and I really mean finally. This is definitely one of the most anticipated cars ever, actually. In terms of the challenge, think of the challenge that these guys have had. I mean, if you think of the icons of the road, you know, you've got things like the Porsche 911, the Fiat 500, the Mini, the Beetle. All of these icons at some stage in their life have been reimagined and reinvented, and this is the latest in that line of icons. Think how daunting it is for a vehicle with such cult status to be reinterpreted for the 21st century. Now, we've just had a walk and talk of the outside of this car, and I know design is subjective, but personally, to my eyes, I honestly think they've nailed it. Anyway, we are on the road, so let me tell you how it translates to driving, well, I guess for most of us, where we'll spend most of the time. So we're in the 110. This is the car which is launching first. The 90 will be available later on in the year. Difference between 110 and 90. Predominantly how much space it has, seating it has. Interestingly, despite the fact that the 90 is a 2-door, whereas this is the 4-door, or technically a 5-door, but having a door at the back, both cars are still able to be optioned as a 6-seater. So you can fit 6 people in this car and you can still seat 6 in the 90. But what's quite interesting is because with the 6th seat installed, it would otherwise restrict the rear view mirror with your passenger's face. So these guys have come up with an incredible option. If I just point the camera up here, not sure if you can see it right now, but that is what you would class as a more conventional rear view mirror. Now check this out. Look at that. There's a high definition screen and camera linked to the rear to give you the rear view when there is a passenger sat on the 6th seat, so it doesn't obstruct your rear view. Very cool stuff. Takes a second or two to adjust to, because when you look at it, it kind of confuses your eyes, only for a brief moment, but once it's rolling, you fit right in. Now, as standard, the 110 comes on air ride suspension. On the 90, you will be able to option standard coils, and you can upgrade to the air suspension, whereas on this, it only comes with air ride. That being said, the car actually isn't as smooth, or it's comfortable, but it's not as smooth as I might expect. It's not like we're on a low profile tire, yet the ride quality I don't think is quite as supple as you might expect. Now, there is obviously a trade-off here with this car having to control effectively over 2 tons of weight. Now, if I slide this over to sport mode, everything gets a little bit more taut, and it does do a very good job of controlling its mass. So that's where you can give this thing a little break, because it is trying to control a pretty heavy car. Defender historically covered many bases, from military to agricultural, to medical, all sorts of platforms. And this is picking up where it left off. This will be a commercial option. This car will still be all things to all people, which conveniently leads me on to the engine. Now in this, we have the top of the range engine. It is a straight 6-cylinder, 400 horsepower option. Let's check it out. I mean, for a car over 2 tons, it goes. It's good. And actually, something that caught me by surprise is the brakes. The brakes are phenomenal. It really is doing a very good job of controlling all that mass. And under heavy braking, there actually isn't too much squirm or body movement. It's actually a really composed chassis. Now, speaking of chassis, and actually this is where the chat off-road comes in to play more than anywhere else. You'd be forgiven for thinking that JLR had to sort of parts bin shared a lot of components, or even some chassis components from other cars in their range. This is an entirely bespoke, dedicated chassis and architecture for the Defender. There is no part sharing with Evoque or anything like that. This is through and through an extreme platform. In fact, the chassis code itself is called D7X, the X standing for extreme, because they have taken every element of it to the next level and developed it effectively to take a beating. Once again, go and check out the off-road section. The things this does, the beating it takes, is remarkable. So anyone who was a fan of the original car, don't be disheartened that you think the original ethos of the car has been lost. If anything, they've doubled down on it. This thing is Terminator worthy. Okay, back at base. What a magnificent machine. What a fantastic day. I feel truly honored to be sharing such an early insight into the first drive of this car. Now, early is the word. It's very, very early days. As I mentioned as part of the drive, 110 is the platform that's launching first. We've got the smaller 2-door 90 being available towards the end of the year. But more importantly, it's such an early stage that I'm going to be fascinated to see the future of this remarkable vehicle. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to spend some more time with this car in the future. So I'd love to hear your questions and comments below as to what else you would like to know, what else you would like to see for adventures with this car in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching. I shall see you next time. Ciao!